Hello, everyone. My name is Eva, and I am here with Kelsey. And today we're going to be talking about how to intuitively navigate all of the access that we have online nowadays because it can get really overwhelming. We can fall into a whole bunch of different traps. So, Kelsey and I are going to be sharing some tips on how to not get sucked in and
Mhm.
how to also work with our inner knowing to support us during this time so we can be more balanced and stay in that inner peace, inner calm state, even when there's so much going on outside of us. So, is there anything else that you'd like to add to that, Kelsey?
No, that was a beautiful way to frame it. I just love that this conversation will blossom as we chat, as it evolves. And I think this is something that we were just talking a little bit before we even hopped on, that like so many of us go through this, even as practitioners, and it's normalized. So how can we help ourselves? That's what first comes to mind, is how can we help ourselves?
I feel like for me, it has a lot to do with boundaries and kind of
Mhm.
seeing things as a relationship. So we can be in relationship with people, with animals, with nature. We could also be in relationship with money and social media and all these things. And so in any healthy relationship, there is boundaries.
Yeah.
There has to be because there's always going to be limits, different capacity levels. So the boundaries need to be very clear. And I think when it's us, we sometimes can really get away with promising something and not keeping our word and really pushing our boundaries with
Yeah.
ourselves. So I really feel like one of the things that I have been learning with having more boundaries with all the access from my smartphone and laptop, can I keep my word to myself?
Mm.
If I spend this extra time doom scrolling, am I still going to show up for the thing that I said that I was going to do and build that self trust? Because at the end of the day, that's part of our foundation with ourselves.
Yeah, no, you bring up a really great point. And I feel also just sharing, like, if we are talking about this as kind of an evolving exchange with this, sometimes I think social media energy access is a really great way for us to not do the thing that we said we're going to do, because we fall into a place of what I call like self sabotage, whether that's purposeful, conscious, or unconscious, because potentially the thing that we are trying to do or hold our word on is something that we may grow, may stretch us, may be something that like ignites a fear or a belief. Like it could be fear of visibility or success or failure or any of the things. So if we're trying to instigate something new or something we're holding our word on, sometimes something like scrolling, the energy exchange of that, it's a receivership, like exchange energetically when you're just scrolling and receiving, unless you're engaging, liking, commenting, of course, then you're giving some energy back. But sometimes that can be a more comfortable place to sit in comfort zone than it is to like be in that growth energy or something that takes you out of your comfort zone. And I feel like this is why a lot of us get stuck doom scrolling, because not only is there all sorts of things like dopamine, but there's also this energy of, oh, it's comfortable here. I don't have to face all of that here. For better or worse, it's been introduced, and I don't think we have a lot of understanding, even energetically, what it's doing to our system unless we start to tune in and ask ourselves, like, how does this make me feel? What is this doing right now? How does my energy feel? Do I feel depleted? Do I feel lit up? I know that after I scroll or get caught in a scrolling pattern, even if I went on for work, my energy feels really depleted after, because I'm receiving other people's energy signals, frequencies into my field, and have to remember to clear that out to not carry them with us. But I'm curious how that feels for you, or how that shows up for you when you're going through that too.
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing that I had to move through was being in the comparison trap, specifically with my business, where I felt like everyone else had resources or had something figured out that I didn't.
Yeah.
And because, you know, social media can be this highlight reel, and not everyone will show you the behind the scenes or the moments that they really like almost gave up And I feel like one of the things that helped me with that was completely removing all my social media. I had to be really honest with myself, and I was like,
Mhm.
look, every time I go on this app, I'm just looking at what other people are doing. And that's not actually supporting me in my dreams. That is, like you said, like in that
Mhm.
like receiver consumption mode. And
Yeah.
so I had to shift from being a consumer to being a creator. And I would feel it in my body of like,
Mhm.
oh, I want to reach to go onto Instagram and see what everyone else is doing. And then I would catch that feeling and stop myself and say, okay, no, what are we going to create right now? And I think anytime we're shifting habits,
Mhm.
to be really aware that it's not going to be like a one and done. Like we need to like really take those baby steps, and like just catching yourself in the middle of a scroll is something to celebrate. And then
Yes.
putting
Yeah.
the phone down, like just taking it step by step, knowing that every single day it's going to fluctuate. Like maybe you, for a whole week, you're doing great, and then you get back into
Mm.
the habit, and it's just you recalibrating to that new habit, but it doesn't mean that you've failed. And then also, I started asking myself the question because I recognize that, sometimes we're looking at other people's stuff and we feel inspired to do something
Mhm.
like that. And so I don't want to take away from, there is like true inspiration that can come
Sure.
from looking at what other people are doing, but it's when you have to discern between, am I inspired right now? Or do I feel triggered or frustrated that this person
Mhm.
has something that I don't? And when you could distinguish between those two is when you know, like, how healthy is this habit? Like, is it actually supportive because you see something and then that activates an idea for you to go create something?
Yeah.
Or is it disempowering you? And I think that's also an important conversation we need to have with ourselves.
Oh my gosh, it certainly is. Yeah, the checking in, the how does this land, the what is this actually doing for me? Those it's really taking back, you mentioned it earlier about being sovereign beings and taking back our power within any modern tool or system. Our nervous systems, our minds, like we are pioneering this. We are bringing forth like animal instincts to this technology situation. And there's so much that we're just learning real time. We are in the evolution of learning about how it affects us, what it does for mental health. And it really made me think of the rules that, quote unquote, rules, but the parameters I set for myself that I can share around being online. So, as someone who was a consumer and is now a creator, I always create before I consume. So,
Mm,
that's my rule. Like, if I'm going to consume someone else's stuff for the day, I always do my creation, my brainstorming, my journaling first so that it doesn't get in the way of my intuitive channel and my signal for like what is coming through for me to put out into the world, and then I can use what I already have to learn from somebody else. And I think that's powerful. The other one is like feed curation. For me, that was a game changer, is like really getting clear on putting like not interested, unfollowing people, just having this very curated situation where I felt like, okay, I know every single person that's moving into this space is going to provide value or make me feel inspired.
mhm,
And I think that is a big difference because one thing we don't talk about a lot, and I know you feel this too, like I know we would talk about it, but maybe not everybody would, is it's all energy. So, like,
mhm,
content is energy. That's somebody's energy frequency codes. So, if they have a tougher intention or a sarcasm or an intensity, you're receiving that whether you mean to or not. And the way scrolling happens is there's a lot being presented to us that we don't choose to follow. And then in the moment, our energy field has to discern, is this something I want to receive or not? But by the time you've discerned that, you've already actually received it. And
mm,
you're processing it. And I don't think we realize just how much we're processing within our bodies
mm,
until it's not just all our minds. We're processing, like if there's a video that comes up of somebody crying, right? We're processing their emotions real time with them. Our brain can't distinguish the video of someone crying versus someone being with us in the room crying. So it's like activating so many different parts of us. So I have those rules around the creation and the curation. And I
mm.
feel like those are really helpful. And the last one is no shame, which I know I talked to you about, which is approval. So if I do get caught doom scrolling, which does happen, I will be like, oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. And then it's, an hour later and you're like, what has happened to my time? I just go, It's okay. I approve of you. No big deal. We did something silly. We're going to let it go. There's no shame here. We're just going to move on because we're not going to do that again. Or if I start catch myself in it, I'll say, we're not doing this today. We decided we didn't want to do that. And like talking to myself as if I'm almost, I don't know, a child, like my 15-year-old self, and just being like, no, we're not. So those things have helped a lot.
Hmm. I love those. To add on to those, I was thinking about how when you're talking about creating something first, for me, my mornings are like so sacred. That is
Mm,
my time. And I actually have my phone set to bedtime and focus mode so that if I were to look at my phone for like the time, I don't have a bunch of notifications. And bedtime mode also turns the screen to black and white so that I don't have the blue light on
yeah.
shining on me. And I have that start around like 8 or 9 p.m. the previous night.
Mm-hmm.
So it will just automatically come on, which is awesome. But the morning piece is so important because I feel like similar to what you were saying, it's really setting my day up for like I'm going to take time for my energy and what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the case, like this morning was actually a great example of this, where I woke up a little bit later. I had to go run and take care of some things really early.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, by the time I got back and completed some stuff, I was like, okay, I didn't have a chance to do my morning practices, right? But I just went
Yeah.
ahead and even though it was like 10, 11 already,
Mm-hmm.
I went ahead and just did my practices then. And I think sometimes we put so much pressure on like the timing, like, oh, if I don't do it at this time, I've missed it. But it's not. Like you could sit and do it anytime, like you don't have to put all that pressure on like it has to be done at this time, otherwise I've failed. I think we can have more grace with ourselves. And I went through a very big decluttering and cleansing of
Mm-hmm.
my digital space. So that
Yeah.
included my email inbox, like all the
Mm-hmm.
subscriptions to get all the freebies that I
I
had
know. Yeah. Right.
because I was like, your energy is coming into my inbox, but it's not providing any value. And
Right.
so I unsubscribed from a bunch of those and then also did like a whole clearing too on Instagram with my
Love it.
followers and YouTube as well, because now that's my main platform. But taking that time, kind of like a spring cleaning of the digital
Mm-hmm.
space, I feel
I
like
love
that's
that.
really helpful too.
I feel like that's something we can do frequently.
Mhm,
And you made up a really good point about doing practices anytime. And
mhm,
I'll be really honest, like I have a young child. There's maybe 3 days a week I wake up before him, and he doesn't have like, he has this some sort of interesting sensor where no matter what time I wake up, it's 15 minutes after. It's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I try to wake up at 5 a.m. He would just wake up at 5:10 a.m. So I don't get that time in the morning alone. It's
mhm,
all integrated. So I'll be like, do you want to do quick stretches with me? Or can we listen to one song? I maybe journal 3 days a week, maybe, right? It's like a
mhm.
5 to 15 minute practice. So it doesn't have to look a certain way, but it's just, are you tuning in with yourself and the people around you and love and the energy of like enjoyment before diving into receiving from other people? Digital space. And that's email, that's feeds, that's even music. I've had to catch myself with that. I know people are like, oh, music, what do you mean I can't listen to music in the morning? But even music, like what is my frequency of the day before I let the frequency of music in? That's a big one.
And also, when you mention music, I'm even thinking about what is the message and frequency of that music that we're tuning into because it's all programming, right? Like
It is.
TV, movies, music, all of that. Anything we're mentally consuming it, we don't realize how important it is to also be very intentional with that because we don't you don't see it being consumed like you would like you eating food. One other practice I wanted to share if you are going to take some time and explore the internet and check out people's feeds and stuff. I started doing this practice once I started learning more about the subconscious and how after a certain amount of time we get into that hypnotic state and then things go deeper. And so I started to talk to my subconscious before I do the activity. I also do this if I'm at a movie theater and some of the previews are movies that I know are not something that I would be interested in. And I tell my subconscious, we are not allowing this in.
I
This
love
is
that.
not something that we're absorbing. This can stay outside of us.
Mhm.
And so just really like giving that, having that intention and letting your body and your subconscious know, like, we don't have to be accepting that before you do it. And I think that that's helpful, especially with like scrolling on social media, because you never know what will pop up. Sometimes they sneak stuff in through the algorithm.
Very much so. You're like, wait, I was just on like inspirational meditations, and now there's like, why are there turtles here? I have no idea what's happening. It's crazy out there. I love that practice so much. I feel like, oh yes, that I can feel that in my heart space. Can be like, that is one that feels actually very, really important and really profound, of catching it in the moment. Like, I will not allow this into my subconscious, and to catch it in the moment feels powerful. And if you forget or can't catch it in the moment, one inverse of that, and I know that I think we've talked about this at some point, but it's like calling your power back if you haven't caught it. So if you've gone into and you watched it and you're like, ooh, calling my power back, I call all my power and energy back to me from all of the places, spaces, timelines, dimensions, whatever you want to say. I call it back cleanly without any attachments. And I no longer allow any of that in my subconscious, and I clear it out. Like something as simple as that, just saying that out loud. If you are catching in the moment and doing that, I feel like between those two things, you're pretty much then consciously aware of yourself as the creator instead of the receiver, the bystander in your own life. And I think it shifts your energy from I'm the receiver and bystander and I don't have as much control, so I can still engage in a modern world as the creator energy in my own life. And I just think that shifts that pretty profoundly for people.
Yeah, it does. I love that. Are there any final messages that you want to share with people around intuitively navigating and really standing in their power when it comes to the internet?
Powerful, massive question. I love it. Let me listen into that for a minute, because I feel like, yes, I get a yes. I just get really brought back to the body, and it's also something we were talking about before. So I would after this ask the same question of you too, because I know we're both have a lens on this. But if you are catching yourself going, ooh, yuck, or like, I don't like that, trust that, listen to that, let that be your guide and your compass, and then veer away from it. Don't be afraid to try something different, try something new, maybe remove something for a little bit, replace it with something different. When all of this started happening for me as far as spiritual awakening and being a practitioner, I was not prepared to no longer watch movies, TV, a lot of like all my music interests changed. And I never asked for that. It's just I followed that vibe of like, where did I feel uplifted? Where did I feel good? What was the frequency of what I wanted to feel? What brought me joy? And I kept everything that was in that, and I let go of everything else. And I thought I'd feel really upset or sad about that, but I actually just felt really great. Like anytime my husband and I might want to watch a movie, on the rare occasion that happens, it's really hard to pick one, because I like to tune in and say, does this feel like something I want to receive? And by asking, just like you did, like, does this feel like something I want to receive? Or no, I'm not willing to. We really can tune into like what feels good for us. So I would say just trust those nudges, trust those gut feelings, trust the urges to reject things that don't feel good.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Kelsey.
Yeah. All right. What about you? What are your final beautiful thoughts, remarks, and helpful tools?
I feel like it's around we are our world first, even
Mm-hmm.
though we're kind of taught the opposite of that.
Yeah.
But it's like, what kind of world are you creating within
Mm,
yourself? And what you're choosing to tune into and spend your time with has a huge impact on that.
yeah.
So, and I've lived it firsthand. I just want to share this real quick. So, I used to like be all about the rom-coms. And now I watch them back. The only one that holds a really special place in my heart, even though it's outdated, is My Big Fat Greek Wedding. But
Mm-hmm.
all the other ones, I can't watch them anymore.
Yeah.
because the messages, the mindsets that I watch playing out in them just
Mhm.
feel so limiting. And I feel like my perspective is so different now than back then when what I thought love was. And then I thought like what was being portrayed on the TV was that.
Mhm.
What kind of world are you creating within yourself?
Mm.
And what are you allowing into that world, like we've been talking about?
That's so beautiful. I'm glad we get to have these conversations and shine some light in spaces and just really empower people to be in their own authority and also still enjoy the life they're living. And I think that's the message today, which I love.
Yeah. And I also just want to say, I think as empaths, it's really easy for us to want to help and carry the burden for the world. As a fellow empath, I just want to say that it's not for us to do on our own. We're
Mhm.
here to do it collectively. And please don't feel like you need to shame yourself just because your role in the world right now
Mm.
doesn't look the same as someone else's. Because I've
Yes.
seen a lot of that online where people are very passionate about their role and they feel like everyone else should be doing that as well. And it's like
Mm-mm.
we're in this talent show. We've all got different talents and skills. And the most important thing is to continue for us to tune into our own
Yeah.
inner senses and inner knowing and follow that, like you've been also saying.
Oh, I no, I love what you brought up there. What's popping up around that is everything you said and the remembrance that the most powerful place we can be is in a place that we can sustain. So if you are in a role, in a soul path alignment that you can sustain many people in many ways for yourself and energetically and long term, the good that you can do, the things you can do, what you can bring to others and to your communities and the collective is going to be far stronger than being in an identity that you can't hold because it's not one that's aligned for you. And we're all in this together. I love what you said about the talent show. We're each going to show up with different talents and strengths, and that's what makes it the talent show. If everyone had the same act, we would be so bored and we would not want to be there. And we would be like, okay, I guess we'll just stay for one act, right? But but we can't, that's not what we're meant to do as people and as humans. We're meant to show
Mm.
up in our strengths. Of course, we can push our edges where we need to collectively, but that is how the collective moves and the energy moves. So thank you so much for bringing that up. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much for adding that.
Oh, it's a joy. And to
Oh,
everyone listening, thanks for being here.
thank you all. So we will have links down below, and both our channels will be linked as well, so you can continue to connect with us. And we will see when we feel called to do another one of these.